Welcome back to the Untouchaballs podcast. Caden and Leo here. Caden, how you doing today?
Doing pretty good, Max. How about yourself?
I'm doing fantastic. It's another double recording day, with this being a Wednesday for you guys who are viewing now. So happy Wednesday to all of you. Caden, we got to talk about our Denver Nuggets. Let's get right to it.
Yeah, so the Nuggets are not a good basketball team, to put that out. Yeah. The first game we got to talk about was so we recorded last Monday in the morning, like we talked about, and then that night they played the New York Knicks at home, which was supposed to be a nice, good interconference clash between two high powers in the Eastern Conference and Western Conference. And then the Nuggets forgot that they had an NBA game that night. They forgot they had a game that night. And the Knicks blew them out the water by 27. Didn't play any defense, gave up 145 points to the Knicks. Like, I don't know.
Caden, at home, this one was an atrocious one for the Nuggets to drop. That's one of those tone setters.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say early on in the season. We've talked about now we're getting into end of November. It's December now when we're recording this. But that's when you got to have – that's when you got to at least make it competitive, Caden. To get blown off the court like that was just a bad look for the Nuggets defensively.
Yeah, I mean, and also I saw this thing after the game. So last season, they had 5 home losses by the All-Star break.
Yeah.
This year, this is December 2nd, the day we're recording this. They already have 4 home losses.
Mm-hmm.
So something's going on where usually, you play at home. When you play in the ball arena, the Nuggets don't lose.
Yeah.
Even when they've had these lesser teams, they still don't lose at home. And now we're seeing this year that they're not only losing at home, they're losing bad games to teams they shouldn't. And even this game, you could see the Knicks winning this game, but you don't expect this to be a 27-point blowout where it's not even competitive in the first quarter.
Correct.
Next, though, they play the Jazz on the road, which is a historically tough place for the Nuggets to play. They usually suck when they go to Utah, but then, hey, they did what they had to do.
Against a bad team.
But against a bad team. For once, it looked like they finally did what they needed to do. It seems like actually both games against the Jazz this year, they've dominated the worst opponent and done what they had to do. This time on the road in Utah where, nice, easy 19-point victory. Everyone was contributing. Everyone looked good. And just a good all-around game. But then we get to last night, so Sunday night, against the Clippers on the road where you are trying to dig yourself out of these holes like you've been trying to do all season. Bad first quarter, so now you're down 8. You're able to tie it up going into half. Jokic is playing great, but that's really about it. Then you get to the second half, you tie the third quarter, so you guys you're down by 2 going into the fourth, whatever. Your defense is still playing really bad. You gave up 92 points in the first 3 quarters. But then, so you're looking there. Then you just have a horrid start to the fourth. You're letting them make Norm Powell, James Harden, Terrence Mann, whoever it is, just 3 after 3 after 3. Then you guys are coming up empty on your possessions. It's just you try to claw back, then like they do, seems like every game, they'll get these big deficits. They try to claw back. But this one, it's not enough. You lose by 4. And, I mean, if you just have a more competitive start to the quarter, this is easily a game that they could have won.
Caden, the Nuggets have not been able to start in the first and third at all.
Oh, no.
They've been atrocious this year coming out of the halves. For whatever reason, whether it's the energy, whether it's the shot, something's not hidden. The good thing, though, is AG is now back.
That is one good thing, yes.
So trying to look at the positive light, but again, it's the problems we've been talking about all year. The poor defense, not getting back in transition, losing momentum. And with a team with like a momentum team like the Nuggets, you got to be able to hit shots and create runs, which they haven't done at all.
No, and I mean, big problem is the defense. They've been getting up a lot of points this year, even to these not as good offenses. I mean, James Harden, who's still a good offensive player, he put up 37, 11, and 9 last night.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Norm Powell's had to put up another 20-piece on them. They're letting Terrence Mann drain a bunch of threes. Like, they have a really poor defense, and their offense isn't playing to the ability to help, compensate for that. Like, they're not able to compensate for their just horrid defense to start this season.
Correct. Now, Caden, moving over to another team in the Western Conference.
That has also been disappointing to start the season is the Minnesota Timberwolves. They are right down there in the standings with the Nuggets. Just going back over these last couple games, yes, they beat the Clippers, but before that, they lose to the Kings, lose to the Rockets, lose to the Celtics, lose to the Timberwolves. And then they also had that back-to-back a couple weeks ago where they lost a back-to-back against the Trailblazers, who are not a good team, especially one of them where they were an injured Trailblazers team, and you're losing both those games. They've been really disappointed. Their supposedly all-world defense that we saw last year is declining. So they're giving up little over 110 points a game, and then their offense is taking that step back. Well, they're only averaging about 111 offensive points a game. So when you have both that, it's really just a weird scene right now in Minnesota.
And when you have your leader in Anthony Edwards publicly critiquing in press conferences post game for weeks now about the effort, the energy, guys being selfish, guys not wanting to play for the team, there's a reason for great concern up there in Minnesota. And I think that's going to be a situation to keep monitoring, because if they can't figure it out and your own leader is critiquing the play, saying we're soft as a team, you got bigger issues than just what's being put out on the court.
And yeah, you make this big blockbuster trade in the offseason, acquire Dante DiVincenzo, Julius Randle, send away your cornerstone piece who's been there forever, and Karl Anthony Towns. And I mean, Julius Randle has been giving you about normal Julius Randle basketball. Nothing crazy good, but he also hasn't been bad. He's been doing his normal stuff. Dante DiVincenzo, though, has been on complete ice. He's missing everything this season. I mean, you saw what he did last year with the Knicks.
Where is he?
Exactly, yeah, exactly. He was draining all these threes to the Knicks, wide open, contested, no matter what. He was making his shots. And now this year in Minnesota, where they need this little extra boost of offense, he hasn't been that for him. And they expect him to come in, play off the bench, or maybe even slide in the starting role occasionally, and hit you shots, hit you threes, really up that scoring. Hasn't done any of that this year. He's been extremely inefficient. He's still taking his shots, but he's just been missing shots that he should definitely be making.
For sure.
Our last team we're going to talk about today, though, is an Eastern Conference team. This is just like a whole episode of teams that have been disappointing.
Start
the season. We have another
lackluster NBA starts.
Yeah. Lackluster. This one, though, we have the Indiana Pacers. Great run last year. We saw they were looking great, made it far. I mean, they were looking good. This year, really underperformed. They're 9-10, lower part of the Eastern Conference standings, which, I mean, I know we say this every week. It's a weak conference. So just rattle off a couple wins here and there, and you're back up, like, kind of in contention behind, like, the Cavs and Celtics is what it's looking like right now. But, I mean, even the Magic, they've been rattling off a bunch of wins. But then you have the Pacers. Like, really the main problem has been, Tyrese Halliburton, who we saw last year kind of explode more offensively. We seen him average more about that, like, 22 and 12. Where this year it's come back down to what we'd seen in previous years, whether it be with Sacramento or when he'd started here with Indiana. He's only averaging about 17 points a game. Big fall off. Only 8.5 assists, which just isn't great. I mean, you're looking at what's supposed to be your best player. And, I mean, he's 33% from three, which is his career low. Shooting 40% from the field, which is also his career low. So he's just been in a big funk to start the season. And now we're already about a quarter way through the season, and he's still in this funk. I mean, you see the occasional game where he'll have your 35, 13, and like 10 or whatever, get that nice triple-double. Next game, like there was one against the Magic a couple weeks ago where I was watching. He had 6 points the entire game in a game where they needed offense to try to keep up with what Franz Wagner was doing on the other side. And then you have Tyrese missing open layups, open threes, just open shots, and he was basically a negative on the offensive side of the court. You need that to really change if you want to have these expectations going forward.
Caden, in today's NBA, with how valuable the three-point shot is and how much, emphasis is put on perimeter play and really creating looks for guys, you got to hit your shots. And that's kind of the pattern we've noticed with these three teams, with the Nuggets, with the TWolves, and now, with the Pacers, is that you're missing out on shooting. You're missing out on explosion off the bench. You're missing out on a depth and consistent defense. When you can't play consistent defense and you can't hit your shots, you're not going to win in modern NBA. Regardless of, the talent you have, if guys can't put the ball in the basket at a decent, not even asking you to shoot lights out, just at a decent, on average pace, that's what this team's missing. And I think until you figure out how to elevate your shooting and play better defense, all three of these teams are going to continue to underperform for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I mean, with the Pacers, too, you can easily argue that Benedict Mathurin has been their best player this year. It hasn't been Pascal Siakam, hasn't been Tyrese Halliburton, hasn't been Miles Turner.
Yeah.
That, like, your three, like, main pieces on your offense who have been – I mean, Pascal's probably been the best of those three in my eyes. He's still doing what you're kind of traded for him to do. He's still looking pretty good. Miles Turner's not looking too great, and he's been dealing with injuries here and there. And then, like we were just saying with Tyrese, he hasn't been great. Yeah, their one, like, kind of, I guess, bright spot in a bunch of downs would be Benedict Mathurin, who's kind of more exploded into his offensive form that people could see from him. He's getting pretty consistent, about 20 pieces. And then, like, even those nights he's still giving you, like, 15-ish. Like, he's been their one, like, bright spot on this downside team.
Yeah, Caden. once again, as we talked about, we're still eyeing, that All-Star break
Yep.
as the big target on are these teams going to get going or not.
Mhm.
And I think that's going to be the deadline we have to measure. Up until that point, of course, Christmas nearing as well on that NBA schedule. That's always a big time. A lot of important games coming up for all three of these teams we discussed.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's really like a lot of people say the NBA season doesn't start till the new year. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. Usually,
Correct.
these first couple months, you never really know. And then, yeah, once we reach that Christmas time, when things are really going to start shifting into gear, people trying to make that playoff push and stuff. So, who knows what we'll see. And next week for the episode, look out because we'll be talking about NBA Cup.
Yes.
The last day of like the group play is tomorrow, Tuesday, or the day before from when you guys are watching this. So look out next week because we'll be covering all that NBA Cup stuff.
Most definitely. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you all next time.